I never really talked too much about it with my mother because she was too preoccupied, with her own life and, the relationship and just trying to survive. I didn't really bring it up to my sister, but other things would happen, right, in that same apartment. For instance, I would go to sleep in the bedroom and then I would wake up in the living room on the couch in the morning. Didn't know how I got there. I don't remember getting up to, let's say, use the restroom and then going to the living room to, let's say, watch TV or something. But the weirder thing about it was my pajama shirt would be turned inside out. This was around Christmas time. I remember waking up one morning and not knowing how I got to the living room and seeing something like manifest next to the tree. And it's what they call the shimmer sort of being, or the shimmer man, or the glimmer man. And it's very similar to like the Predator from the movie The Predator, how he kind of camouflages and he sort of reflects or absorbs, the environment around him, where you can kind of see through, but something's there. And I remember seeing that in the morning, something manifest itself and then all of a sudden like disappearing.
It's really windy today. I'm sure that you guys will probably be able to hear the sound of the trees swaying above me. We've recently had a storm hit the UK, and I think that it's passed now, but I think the remnants of that storm is still lingering on. So there's been a few trees come down during the night, and also over the last few days. I've got to be very, very careful because these trees are moving. A bit too much for comfort. It also makes it creepier as well, I feel like, when you're walking through the forest and any of your senses are limited, whether it be your eyesight, you've got something in your eye, or your hearing because the wind is so noisy. It almost puts you in a disadvantage. Not like we have any advantage over the things that I get here to talk about, but when you can't hear anything, or you can't hear what's ahead or behind because of the sound of the wind above through the trees, it's really, really scary. It's quite a magical world, like a magical environment to be walking through. It's crazy. I do enjoy it though. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't. In a weird way, I do enjoy getting out, and I do enjoy being freaked out because there's a sense of adventure. It's the unknowing that makes me keep wanting to push forward. What is just round this corner? What is just a bit further ahead? What's down that hole in the ground? What's up this tree? I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I know that that's the number one way to get into a bad situation. They always say, don't they, that it's the curiosity that kills the cat. But we have to live our lives. Like, life is for living, having experiences. And I intend to do that to the best of my ability. The forest is so enchanting, like everywhere I look it's just magical. And it's almost like every part of this forest is screaming, come this way, come this way. Because you look ahead and then there's like a patch of light coming through the trees, and it opens up to where there's loads of moss and green. Oh, these trees are swaying. Oh my god, so I was just about to kneel down and start talking to the camera, and as I dropped my bag on the floor and knelt down, I started to look around, taking my surroundings, and I saw this over here in the corner of my eye. I'll zoom in. I think it's a rotten tree, but it just so happens that part of the tree looks like it's got eyes and a nose and an orange face. So I'll zoom in and let you guys see what I saw really quickly. How creepy is that? It looks like a head, an orange head, laying down in loads of like bramble branches or a nest. You can see the two dark bits are what caught me off guard. I thought that they were like eye sockets on a big orange face. It looks like there's like a tiny thin nose there as well. So this is it, this is what we was looking at, but creepy from a distance as well, looking through the trees. It's very creepy, and you can see why I mistook that really quickly as a face. Looks like a face with horns now. That eerily, and I know it's just probably pareidolia, but it looks like someone's pressed two thumbs into that dying wood to make eye sockets. It looks like it's got something in its mouth. There's the nostrils, and then two horns on top. Tell me that isn't creepy. Jesus. You alright? Good girl. Whoop, climb. When we think about all the different conspiracy theories that are out there, I think by far the most morbid, the most depressing of them all has to be the soul farm theory. This idea that Earth is being used as a soul farm, and we, the humans, are basically just trapped in this loop of reincarnation. We keep dying and coming back as something else, dying and coming back as something else, and something somewhere out there in the universe, or even here on the Earth, is using our souls, the energy from our souls, to heighten their awareness, increase their longevity, whatever it may be. Who knows what they're using these souls for? But the idea that the Earth basically is just a soul farm is so depressing. But really, if you think about that, it doesn't sound, well, it does, it sounds crazy, but it isn't in theory that crazy, because we know as humans that everything is energy. This tree behind me is energy. This moss in front of me, these sticks, Lily, me, everything is vibrating on an energy level. And if we had a special camera that could show this, everything would be vibrating in its own energy frequency. So the idea that somebody is using human souls that potentially give off masses of energy wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think about. Because like when we eat an apple, we don't just eat an apple because we want to eat an apple. Our body says to us, look, we need energy, and the energy comes from the apple, so we eat it. And that could be exactly the same for extraterrestrial beings living out there in space or in caverns here on Earth who need energy to survive. And all those humans do is just reincarnate, trapped in this soul prison that we call Earth. repeatedly going over the same process over and over and over again. It's called the soul farm theory, and it's absolutely depressing as hell to think about, but interesting at the same time. Have you ever thought that, this is going to be off the deep end, but it's interesting to think about this kind of stuff. Have you ever thought that this could be all fake? Like, this is not real. Nothing I see right now, this place that I'm in, it's all just fake. None of it's real. This tree behind me here is fake. Because really, our brains take in information and then create this conscious experience that we call life. But why can't that happen in a jar? Like, for all I know right now, my brain could be sat in a jar on a shelf in some alien university where students come in every day, they pick me out of the jar, they study me, and they put me back in the jar ready for the next class. But for me, the brain inside the jar, I might be imagining all this up. My reality might be just one big, elaborate fantasy. And in reality, the real world, I'm just a brain in a jar floating around on a shelf in some kind of alien laboratory for students. My brain is having a conscious experience. My brain. Does it matter where the brain is to have that conscious experience? When I go to bed on the night and I dream, I'm not flying through space. I'm not driving a Formula One car. I'm not doing all these amazing things. I'm laid in bed. But my conscious experience is that I'm flying through space. Is that I'm driving a Formula One car. And is that I'm doing all these amazing things. But I'm not. And so who's to say it can't be the same for life? From start to finish, it's all fake. We're all just brains floating in a jar thinking this up. Sounds crazy, but trying to disprove that would be quite difficult.
They have so many unknown creatures out there. However, at the same time, you've got so many credible people. You'd be amazed at the background some people are reporting these things and that people are seeing these things. You have so many credible people seeing them, you can't eliminate and say it's not happening. The only thing that makes any sense is we're dealing with something which nobody understands. For a lack of a better term, again, I'll call it interdimensional, that under certain conditions, these various type of entities, these objects that come in and out of our physical reality, at times they leave evidence. There's electromagnetic effects involved at times. They come and they go. They're here and they're gone. And I think that is what we're dealing with, not only in Pennsylvania, but around the world. And I said years ago, there's more than one origin to the unknown category of the UFO mystery. Maybe a small percentage might be extraterrestrial, but I think, again, more and more of these things have a physical and a non-physical component to it. It's all energy connected. And here's the one pattern I found years ago. Many close-range, low-level UFO sightings and many encounters with Bigfoot and other cryptids occur in the vicinity of high-energy sources. So many sightings occur around power plants, high-tension power lines, bodies of water, railroad tracks, gas lines, gas wells, radio, TV, cell phone, communication towers. I have no doubt there's an energy connection to a lot of these cases.
I've just stepped out into this beautiful clearing, which is really nice. It was much needed because I've been walking through the woods now, the dark woods, for about 2 hours. And so to step out into this clearing, it's just beautiful. I'm surrounded by all these conifer trees and evergreens. It's nice. It can get really gloomy in those dark forests after a while, just walking through the endless trees. Very little sunlight coming through. It's a weird feeling though as well, because I'm just literally in a big circle surrounded by conifers. Gives you the feeling that something in the tree line of these conifers is looking into the middle of this clearing, watching my every move. Makes me feel a bit like a sitting duck in many ways. So here we have a telegraph pole. You don't see many of them around these days. Everything's fibre optic and underground. Obviously to the right of it is just a snow pole to measure the depth of snow once we have snowfall. But as you can see, construction has cut right through the forest to install these telegraph poles. And the reason I'm telling you this and I'm showing you this is because these are ideal locations to set up game cameras. You know, before this installation was made, whatever lives in this forest would have been making its way from point A to point B. But now we have this open piece of ground. No doubt they will still make that journey, but be out in the open, and it gives us a great opportunity to capture whatever it is moving from point A to point B on a game camera. A lot of the stories that come from the US, Canada, places like that, of people who've seen dogmen and Bigfoot are usually in places like this. Short, but wide enough areas cut through the forest to give people a clear chance to see something up ahead. So there's a good tip for you guys. If you come across one of these fire breaks or these construction gaps that cut through the forest to install these telegraph poles or any other kind of technology, set up a game camera, because you never know. I was listening to a conversation not so long back and it had me thinking. It's quite a scary thought, but they were talking about jobs that have gone missing or being taken by AI. Like 1.7 million jobs since the year 2000 have vanished thanks to the introduction of artificial intelligence. They were also saying that anywhere between 400 and 800 million jobs could be gone before the year 2030. And it got me thinking back to one of my old jobs that I used to do. And it was only working in a multi-storey car park, but I worked there for 10 years. And then pretty much during the whole duration of my time there, we had night staff that would come in from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. and make sure that the car park was secure and protected. And then in my last year at the company, they introduced speed gates that were automated. So they opened at a certain time, they closed at a certain time, and they would only allow people in once a car hit the pressure sensor. So in a sense, we could say that that is some kind of robotic artificial intelligence. Very simple artificial intelligence, but nonetheless it replaced two jobs. Two of the night staff there completely dismissed. Scary world that we're going to be living in moving forward. Here on the channel, I'm constantly talking to you guys about my beliefs and the links that strongly tie Bigfoot in with the extraterrestrial phenomena. But we hear cases time and time again from many credible sources where people have been following footprints, freshly laid footprints through snow that seemingly just come to an end. They vanish, almost like this creature was just airlifted out of that area. Now, we could argue that this creature, whatever it was leaving these prints, was beamed up by a UFO. Or we could say that maybe there is a paranormal element to Bigfoot. Because in a lot of paranormal cases, we hear about victims, people that have had first-hand accounts or experiences with the paranormal. They talk about things like prints being left across the landing that just disappeared. So there could also be a paranormal element, I think is what I'm trying to say, to Bigfoot, not just an extraterrestrial one. Unless, of course, all of these phenomena are tied in together, which I also strongly believe could be a possibility.
Through countless reports, eyewitness accounts, and unexplainable occurrences, it is clear that something beyond our understanding is at play. There is evidence to suggest that the existence of unexplained entities are living on this planet, right here, right now. The presence of these entities is no longer a matter of belief, but rather a matter of accumulating evidence. Scientific studies, documented encounters, and unexplained phenomena all point to the existence of something beyond our current understanding. As we continue to explore and uncover the mysteries of our world, it becomes increasingly apparent that there is more to our existence than first meets the eye.
One of the big assumptions that people seem to make when we're talking about extraterrestrials and extraterrestrials having visited Earth is that for some people that equates to, oh, well, they must have travelled the vast distances of the universe. And it's a really big assumption that gets made a hell of a lot. But we don't know enough about extraterrestrials to assume that they're travelling any distance at all. You know, they could be natives to this planet. They could live underground here. They could live on the moon, on Mars, one of the moons of Jupiter. Christ, for all we know, they could be walking amongst us in everyday life. And I highly doubt that we'd be able to tell the difference. Which, as I'm saying it right now, is giving me the heebie-jeebies. That is a very scary thought. Can you imagine, like, walking down the street and not knowing who is who? Imagine, full stop, just coinciding with extraterrestrials. Because I bet that does happen. Like, I bet there are planets out there where something closely related to humans, or if not humans themselves, are living alongside extraterrestrials. Now, some people might say, what the hell are you talking about? Humans themselves, we're here. But how many times have we been here? And by here I mean a planet. We could be on many different planets all across the galaxy, or even universe. You know, we might not be the first humans to ever sprout up. We might have been brought here from our ancestral humans. And they could have done that 10 times over, 20 times over, 100. And the reason I'm saying that I do believe there will be planets out there where humans coexist with extraterrestrials like it's a normal thing is because of how many times humans are reported or reportedly being seen on UFOs with extraterrestrials. Travis Walton thought he saw humans. Betty and Barney Hill thought they saw something that resembled humans. And we can go on and on and on and on, looking at all these highly credible cases where people have been abducted. And sure, there are little green creatures, there are little grey creatures, there are reptoids, but there are usually always human-looking people as well. So when we assume that they have travelled vast distances to get here, we could have that so very wrong. So very wrong.
I talked to a fellow, and I actually was at the house, and he's telling me he lived deep in the woods, and this guy basically lived with the deer and lived with the animals out there, and he was up there working up in the woods that evening when he heard this odd bipedal sound, but he knew what he's hearing is not a deer. It didn't sound like a normal human walking, and it kind of shook him up a little, so he went down to his house. And he's sitting there at the dining room table. The big back door was completely open. There was no drapes on it. And here he sees his skeletal-looking, sickly-looking, hairless, in the case of the police, was hairless as well, creature down on all fours with glowing yellow eyes staring right into his face from 10 feet away that moved around the side of the house and was gone.
As you can tell, guys, it's now started raining, which is always the case here in the UK. I'm going to have to really act quick to get the tarp up because this coat is not 100% waterproof. It's going to keep the rain off me for a little while, but ultimately if I spend too much time out in the rain, it's going to soak me right through. So I need to crack on, get the tarp up, and make sure I'm as comfortable as possible for tonight.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. And so, you know, I think that people still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is. Trying to investigate and figure out what that is. Figure out what that is. Figure out what that is.
So on the torch, there are 3 different settings. You can turn the light to be like a blue, a green, which I've got on now, and a red. And I just thought, how creepy would it be to walk into the green light or walk through the woods towards the green light as if you was approaching some unknown craft in the woods. So I just tried it, and it's absolutely terrifying. Terrifying. Not only is it terrifying, I've never been so disorientated in my whole entire life. I can't see anything when I'm walking towards this light. It's so bright. Because it is a weird colour that our eyes are not familiar with. This green against the fog. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. My heart just jumped out of my chest. As I was saying, let me get my breath back. As I was saying, anyway, I'll just show you guys as we walk towards this green light, and I want you to envision how it must feel to come across something unknown hovering off the ground in the forest. It is eerie, atmospheric, and just downright terrifying. Now I'm going to take you guys on a little journey with me towards this green light, because I know that you'll never understand or feel how I feel right now. I mean, you're sat in the comfort of your own living rooms, but I am absolutely terrified. If anybody has one of these torches that can shine a different lens, a different colour, whether it be green, red or blue, whatever it may be, go out into the woods on a night like tonight, when there is thick fog lying around everywhere, and just walk into the light, walk into the green light or the blue or the red. It is a terrifying feeling. Now imagine, as we walk closer towards this light, we don't know that that's my torch sat in front of us. Let's just pretend. We've woken up through the night, we've been camping, maybe a noise or some other disturbance, a low humming sound has woke us up from our tents. And as we walk through the forest, closer towards this light, we start to realise really quickly that something is off. Something is not quite as it should be. This light is hovering off the ground. There's no movement. There's a definite low-pitched humming sound coming from whatever this is. And the hairs on my arm and neck stand up. As we approach even closer, we find that this is some kind of a craft. Some kind of an object that maybe has strange hieroglyphic type symbols across the side. We're in the middle of nowhere, there's no way we can contact anyone. All our electrical equipment has gone down, and this is the situation that we're in. It must be absolutely terrifying to have an experience on this level. Now obviously, as I'm talking through this, I've got the Rendlesham case in mind, but that's not the only case where people like this have experienced things. Strange lights in the forest, just hovering a few inches off the ground or a few meters off the ground. And sometimes after this event, people go on to experience missing time as well. Whew. What an experience.
As I lie here and the fog settles in around me, I find myself lost, deep in my own thoughts. Thoughts of my previous expeditions and encounters with things that I can't quite explain begin to flood my mind. My search for the truth and understanding has been a lifelong journey, filled with both triumphs and setbacks. Yet as I lie here struggling to see the towering trees under this blanket of fog, I'm reminded that the quest for answers is never a straight road. But it's not just the past that captivates me. I often think about the future and how we humans might change over time as more information comes to light regarding these strange and fascinating creatures, entities, and beings. The answers may not always be within our reach, but I've learned that the act of seeking is what drives us forward.